Folks at home. So before Mike gets back, I guess we'll tell everyone that he turns 46 on Sunday. So
Man,
we brought some little smash cakes for him.
We almost bought Eric a cake, but then he didn't show up tonight.
Yeah, well, that's why we had 2 cakes, because apparently it's Eric's birthday, too.
Yeah, bought him a cake.
Eric doesn't get a cake.
No, not when you don't
And
show
Mike's
up.
so old that it took, the 2 cakes to get all the candles on there, so he has 2 cakes now. One for the 4 and one for the 6. I know.
He keeps it going now.
Yeah.
My goodness. What's it going to be? 45?
46.
46! Holy mackerel.
Man, I'm on the couch. This is nice.
You're old as dirt, man.
I like being on the couch. Oh, it feels
I'm gonna
good.
Stay up straight. Do I look weird?
No, you look nice.
You changed.
I just put on comfy pants.
Who you wearing right now?
I'd like to see a little more cleavage, but I like
honestly,
it.
I couldn't stand the smell of myself because I got smoked out by that thing.
You had smoked out with the trigger?
I had a
beautiful
slight, I had a pellet experience. I'm learning about the trigger. We had a slight smoking experience.
We did.
My eyes still burn.
Some
good meat,
Miss
though.
Rebecca, it took a long
Meat.
time to smoke those wonderful ribs.
Good
That
job,
was amazing
Guys.
work.
Good job,
Smoked the
guys.
ribs.
Guys, you killed it.
Why can't I hear him? Am I supposed to hear him?
No, you can't hear him.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, I
You've
like
got
the
to
color of
like
this.
tilt one ear to the side so you
I
can
might hold this. I might keep that
hear
one for
outside.
myself.
We don't know.
That's awesome. Are we back on?
We're back live.
It's my birthday.
I sat down because no one was here.
Oh, okay.
I
No,
just
I
started
like
talking.
it. I like the mix of positions here. Brian, let's do this. Do we have a minute before Jim's coming on, or is Jim coming right on?
We do whatever the hell you want.
I was gonna say, why don't we let's do an unboxing while we're here, real quick. While Brian's getting Jim ready, let's do an unboxing. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And
Pick one.
let's
Pick
see.
a box, any box.
Well, is this yeah? All right, here, Beck.
Pick one that's been open. Pick
Where?
one that hasn't been open.
Oh,
There's
here.
supposed to be a whole slew that haven't been open.
Let's see. Yeah, this one hasn't been open. Take that one. You take that one, and we'll.
Did we get... No.
What?
We're not opening 3 boxes at once.
No, 2.
I quit.
All right. All right, let's open one.
I quit.
Open one. All right. We don't make good. Open this one. And Pete, let me remind everybody, Ike Live is the only live webcast / podcast that does an MTB unboxing.
Is that true?
That is true. We're the
Maybe.
only one that does it live. There's a lot of those corny dudes that do it on YouTube, but we're the only ones that do it live.
Careful,
So-
they're
There's
sensitive.
Liquid
Yeah.
Mayhem
All right,
in
so
here.
Beck, you got your product. You want to talk a little bit about it and then pass it on to Pete?
We've got the Shad Scent Liquid Mayhem. Now, I do want to tell everyone, if you're an avid follower of this show, you might think you can eat your Liquid Mayhem.
Right.
We don't recommend that.
No.
That was a prank.
That was a
They
prank.
were filled just for us.
Right. Don't eat it.
Don't eat your Liquid
Don't eat
Mayhem.
it.
But
Put it
this
on
is
your
great
bait.
stuff. These are some of our favorite Canadians.
Yes. Great scent.
Yeah.
Pete, dig in that box. What do you got in there? Show us something interesting.
Wow. This is interesting.
Oh, now look at that. We need to put that in the back eventually. Get Brian to get a close up on that. That is interesting.
That is really
What do you got
interesting.
there? Top water?
It's a top water. It's a popper style bait. It's a Lucky Craft. It's black. It's black with
Dude,
some chartreuse
dude,
highlights on it.
This reminds me of the Aaron Martin bird theory, right? The blackbirds, the black and yellow.
The blackbirds are going crazy in the reeds right
Yes.
So wait, when do you throw a black bait? Is it like clear water, mucky water?
now. You always throw a black bait when the bass have a tendency to bite a black bait better.
Oh, good answer.
It's key. Bass University knowledge
I've
coming through
only
right
ever
there.
been allowed to throw soft plastics until recently.
Yeah.
So I base mine on the most, sparkle it'll give in
Yeah.
the
No,
water. So I'm not very aware on
yeah.
this hard
To
bait.
me, you hit the boat. You hit the 2 times that a black bait works. You said them both, which is to me it's low light, dirty water. A black bait is great because it's all silhouette. So at night, you see a lot of dudes throwing a straight black bait just because it's all, just black. It blends in, but it provides that big silhouette. The other time is clear water. Dude, something about black and clear water. Pete, you're the master of it with soft plastic.
It's like the absence of color.
The absence of color in
And
clear water.
What does it piss them off?
I can't explain it. They have an affinity toward it. It's like everything in nature has black in it
Yep.
at some point. They can see it for a mile away.
Yep.
I just can't explain it other than, there are times when it's absolutely key.
It's key.
So you just got to have those. You got to have your bait. A lot of people don't throw a black crankbait.
Hardly at all.
and
a lot of
that's-
companies don't make a black crankbait.
that's right.
Rapala
Wait,
is one of the few.
That's right.
Rapala is one of the
Is
few.
that the same logic with a black frog?
It is the same logic with the black
And
frog.
it works for a frog, right? It works for a jig. A lot of people will throw it black in those color patterns for some reason. But when they get to top waters and buzz baits,
Crankbaits.
they're just kind of like brainwashed away from throwing it.
Yeah.
But it's a color choice that you've got to factor in.
Pete,
Yeah.
do you cover that in Bass U?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Pete, you.
Here, let's keep going with the MTB unboxing. And I always say this, Brian the Carpenter. One of the cool things about this box is it forces lures in your hand that you wouldn't normally buy. And the one that I picked, dude, this is really cool. It's a Optima swim bait.
What?
Yeah, Brian the Carpenter. I'm serious. This is actually a really cool bait.
Yeah.
It's an Optima swim
Trying to
bait.
get it.
Normally, when you think about swim baits, you think about those giant tennis shoe. And Optima is a West Coast company. They make a lot of those big ones. Dude, look at that little thing.
It looks like a Ned rig. swim
Dude,
bait.
it is a small swim bait. Dude, look at that thing. It looks like it
Very
could look
unique.
like a shad. It could look like a little alewife, a little minnow.
And a lot
That's
of the,
dope.
A lot of those threadfin
That's dope.
shad are just like that. They're short and
Short and small.
real tall.
2-3 inches tall across the back.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Optima swim bait. Very cool. There it goes. Good
That's
highlight
good
of
bait,
it.
man.
Got these Biospawn. It's called a Biocrawl.
Biospawn. Seth
I
Fighter.
tell you what, it's like it's pretty dense. I mean, Texas rig that thing. Probably throw this in the back of a buzzbait, right?
Sure.
Just keep it across the top of the water, and these
Texas rig it.
yeah these,
Jig trailer.
You can break them apart. You keep them together. It's pretty cool, but it's
Pete would wacky rig it and dead stick it.
Real quick.
pretty cool.
I'd
Pretty
put
cool.
it down after my 5th 5-pounder.
Brian the
I
Carpenter.
would punch
Pretty
shot
nice.
it.
Look what else is in there, Brian the Carpenter.
I'm looking.
Bam.
Sluggos.
What?
Sluggos.
Get out.
Oh, man.
Blast from the past.
You
Don't
better
count
knock
them
it off.
out.
Cool.
They worked back in the 80s. They still work. Look at that thing. Lunker City Sluggo. Dude, you remember how good they were back in the day? Dude, the Sluggo and the finesse fish.
Pete and
Dude,
I got blasted
caught
for thinking somebody
everything.
closed
Man,
last
we
show.
crushed them all
Back
on
in the
those
day.
lures.
Everything.
Who's next?
That was
How good
amazing.
you
You know what I looked at those sluggos and I thought, how the Kentucky Lake guys are doing it with that Mega Bass jerky jig? I mean, and I looked at that's a sluggo.
Yeah, slender. Just
Yeah,
letting the tail do its own
It's
thing.
the same shape.
No big giant boot making the bait do weird stuff.
Right.
It's just natural.
Letting the vibration
Yes.
of that,
yes.
making the tail quiver.
Very cool, dude.
Sluggos, baby.
Very, very
It's cool to see Lunker City back in the box. Reminds me of Terry Baxay. Shout out to Terry Baxay.
Shout out Terry Baxay. Yeah.
Haven't seen him for a while. From
I
Connecticut.
set Terry up. Interesting story real quick on Terry Baxay. I set him up. I had a guy I met in Austin when I shot my show down there in Austin, Texas. This guy, Dusty, was taking a trip with his wife to New York City. And he wanted to catch smallmouth. And he said, where can I go to catch big smallmouth that's close to New York City? I said, well, like Champlain, but that's, so many hours. I said, you can go to the Upper Hudson. That's so many hours. And I started thinking about Candlewood.
Yeah.
And I hooked him up with Terry Baxay, and he put him on almost a 5-pound smallmouth,
Wow.
which is his personal best smallmouth. So
Outstanding.
shout out to Terry Baxay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was awesome. Taking Dusty
I'm
out.
hoping I might see Terry this year up at one of the Lake Champlain tournaments.
Be awesome to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be awesome to see him.
Did you tell everyone to go out and buy their Ike Live line cutters?
Yeah. Ike
Hey.
Live line cutters, Bri?
They've got some cool new products coming out. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I can't remember what my email said, but they've got some new line cutter products
Ooh.
that aren't rings.
Are you teasing us?
Not on purpose. I
Oh.
just can't remember if the email said I could
Are you
say.
are you gonna Are you making an announcement about an announcement?
An announcement
well,
about an announcement.
You know what? This
On
is
an
the problem.
announcement.
Everyone is prepping for iCast, and everyone puts in for all those new products, like competitions, everything they do at iCast.
Yep.
So, every once in a while, they kind of like put something by you, like, don't tell anyone, but we're putting this in. So it's kind of cool. So I think BU is going to be heading down to ICAST, so everyone should be tuning in to the Bass University.
We'll be covering it live with all these new
Yeah.
products. As a matter of fact, it's funny you should say that. We've been trying to fit Bass University basics into the new lure category, and so far we've been rejected.
Well, so
That's funny.
it's a lure that catches humans.
That's right.
Come
It
on.
catches people. Same
Yep.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not accepting it at this time.
Access
All right.
denied.
We've got finally. This is we like I said before. We saved the best for last.
Hell yeah.
We've got a great friend of the show, great friend of all of us on tonight. It's been here live. It seems like yesterday we had him on the show. Brian the Carpenter. In fact, it was early on in our podcast that we had Jim and his brother on, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing back then,
Still don't.
and we still don't. But
I wonder if sometimes we're not going a little bit back.
we might be going backwards. I don't know. They might have been better back then, but I'm excited to have him on the show with us tonight. The one and only UFC superstar, Jim Miller, joining Ike Live tonight. Jim!
Thanks for having me.
What's up, man?
Oh, not much. Not much.
Good to see you.
You two, all I see is the back of your head.
Only the back of my head. Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot the way we're set up here with Skype. First things first. How's the fishing? When's the last time you fished? Give me a recap on fishing. I don't want to talk fighting yet. I want to talk fishing right now. What's going on with fishing? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, there it goes.
Caught some bass and hooked into a muskie or two, but I didn't have a leader on at that time. We're just trying to catch bass. So
Muskie.
Another
Snap.
muskie story, Brian.
We got to get north.
Dude, we got to get north.
Yeah.
I'm so sad we don't have him down here. This is incredible.
Where are you hooking up with muskie, Jim?
I forget what lake we were at.
Don't say the name. Eric will be there.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the lake we were at, but it's Wisconsin. They're everywhere up there.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, there's a few muskies up in that part of the country. Have you officially rigged your BassCat that you won at the Ike Foundation tournament?
No.
Yeah! No! So are you saying it's a flower pot on the side of your house?
I am a hillbilly.
Yes!
So,
Our very own Brian the Carpenter had one sitting on the side of his house for about 30 years. So yeah, you did. Come on, man.
The good thing is we have the sales guy here, so maybe he could help you with some fishing sponsorships,
all right.
and get you set up so we can get you out on the water.
That's
There
right.
we go. There we
Well,
go.
Maybe we could blame the Ike Foundation. Does this year's boat have a motor on it?
I think it's going to.
You think it's
Yeah.
I
going
cannot confirm that, but I
Okay.
It's a good
Hey,
possibility.
Joe Sancho just ripped his giant goatee off.
Yeah, you.
That man's got broad shoulders. He carried Dan and I through that entire tournament.
Now you are, Jim. You're fishing this year again with us. We're very excited to have you back, and
I'm
you're
excited to be back.
yes, you're coming in as a returning champion. You fished one event,
right.
you won. This is your second one. Give me some expectations for this year. Are you?
Oh,
look at that!
Right there.
Look at that! There it goes. I see it.
Trophy.
I'm coming down to catch some fish on the Delaware this time.
Yeah.
But it's just a great event, and I'm excited to come down and be a part of it, and try to give back and get some kids fishing, man.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate your support, man, and getting young kids fishing in urban areas. It's so important to have guys like you come out and support it. It's very humbling for us, so thank you for doing that. I want to switch gears a little bit. When you were here, seems like yesterday, but it was years ago, I know we were talking that you were going to start your podcast, and you have since, and you've been very successful. Tell us a little. I think you've been successful. I've watched some. Tell us some of the good things that have happened, some of the bad things that have happened. Has it been what you expected podcasting?
do you start on time?
Do you start on time, or are you always late?
No,
like Brian
never.
DeCarpenter? Okay.
I don't think we've ever started on time. I try to do a lot of it myself, learn a lot of the game, and it has been the toughest part is getting people to, my co-hosts to show up.
Heard that.
So but it's been fun and have gotten to get a couple opportunities off of it, and kind of branch out and stuff like that. So, staying consistent is the toughest part, and just gotta be disciplined with it. But I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
Yeah,
it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
You see, I started to decorate a little bit behind me. I put
see
up a
that.
saw and some hammers and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Brian the carpenter, you should really appreciate that.
Oh, I do.
Brian appreciates that.
I do appreciate it.
Jim, that's one of the things I just want to say that I admire, and it's I see it in all sports. I see it in baseball, football. I see it in fishing. I see it in UFC. There are guys that are able to diversify and do other things in their life and other businesses, and you do that real well. What is it? What drives you to do all these things? I mean, you hunt, you fish, you're a fighter, you've got the gym, you've got the podcast, you're doing the beer thing, you got all this stuff. What gives you that drive, and why don't all the guys in UFC do that?
I don't know. I think it's just a personality type. I like to do things. I like to build things, and I don't know. I come from a family that's very, I guess stubborn is the right word.
Yeah.
Hard-headed. And my dad always did things on his own, and it wasn't necessarily because he always wanted to. I mean, when we were growing up, there was financial aspect of it as well, and but he got pride in doing things himself, and I saw that, my siblings saw that, so I like to make things, to be a part of it, and be a part of the process. I mean, like, we just had our barbecue at the gym, and we could cater it. It would be easy enough to cater the thing, but as a family, we really enjoy making the food ourselves, because then there's that little bit of that sweat equity that goes into it, and it just kind of, it's a little more satisfying.
Yeah,
it's a little more satisfying for us, and I feel like our students stuff appreciate it, but honestly, I mean, I think they'd have fun either way, but I enjoy. I made 70 pounds of freaking mac and cheese this year, and, and it basically all went. So it's like, was it a task and a hassle? Yeah, it was, but it was. I enjoyed doing it. I like cooking too, So it's just part of the process and part of the craft of things, and that's why I like fighting and jiu-jitsu as well, because there's so much that goes into it, and I mean, pretty much everything that I do is kind of like that, whether it is fishing or hunting or fighting and all this stuff. There's so many little things, and the devil's in the details type stuff. But I enjoy that.
Jim, isn't it going to be a little bit challenging for your guys to make weight when you're giving them 70 pounds of macaroni and cheese?
Well, the ones that are fighting, we've got a couple guys fighting this weekend, so they didn't go too deep. We kept an eye on them. It was the people that weren't fighting that were able to go after it. The fight team is rather small, so.
Gotcha. Now, I want to jump into along the lines of you kind of being a man of many avenues, many businesses. I want to talk a little bit about Lyme's disease, and it's we talked about it before you came on. I think every one of us in this room either knows someone that deals with it, knows someone that had it, knows someone, it's somehow connected to it.
Mm-hmm. Or someone that still may have it.
Right.
Yeah. Like over on this side of the room.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, give us your background with Lyme's, and I know you're a champion of bringing awareness to it. Give us a little background on what Lyme's means to you.
Well, I am I'm dealing with chronic Lyme right now. So I don't know exactly when I was bitten by a tick. I always thought that the tick had to be on you for a certain amount of time, and And since being diagnosed with it, I've learned a lot about it. You know, I was always around ticks. I've found plenty crawling on me. I think in my life I've only found one that was like, you know, actually bitten on there. But
They're hard to decipher between freckles, right, Jim?
they can be. I mean, like you know, the
Irish
deer
guys.
tick is really small, and the like the nymph stage, the young deer ticks. I mean, they're like a grain of sand practically. I mean, they're tiny, and if they have the bacteria and they bite you, they could potentially give it to you. So you don't know. I mean, I've seen pictures of little kids with you know, a deer tick on their gums or like under their eyelid. They're so small that they get into places where you think you'd feel them.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be engorged. They don't have to stay on there for a few days. I remember as a kid, it was like, oh, the tick has to be on you for 3 days for you to get Lyme disease. That's not true. If they regurgitate into you, they can give it to you. And that can be as short as a couple minutes. You know, if they bite you and they don't like something, whether it's your sunscreen or, you know, something you've got on you, and they, you know, spit in you, puke into you, and jump off of you, you never know what happened. And you could very well be infected. So, you know, I was diagnosed, it was like 2 or 3 days before I fought Diego Sanchez. So that was 2016, March 2016. I had like the worst camp of my life. You know, I could barely train. I could barely get out of bed some days. You know, I pretty much didn't train for that fight. I probably would get in like, you know, maybe 5 or 6 workouts a week.
Yeah.
It was not what a training camp for a professional fight should be. So I thought, and that's one of the tough things too, is that, you know, Lyme is they call it the great imitator. The symptoms can disguise themselves and it can look like a lot of different diseases. I personally thought that I had rheumatoid arthritis. I had a lot of the symptoms. I had really severe joint pain to the point where like I could be warmed up and going, you know, in a practice, and I'd go to stand up and I'd have to put my hands on my knees and I'd grunt and groan standing up. When you're all warmed up and you should be moving and everything should be, you know, greased up and you're going. I was going up and down stairs sideways because it was easier on my knees, grabbing the railing. And I thought that was because, I've been a fighter for, you know, at that point, 10 years. That's what I thought it was. I had a couple other symptoms, numbness and tingling, you know, in my hands and stuff, and my legs. And again, I've got neck injuries. I've got you know, back injuries. So I figured it was something else. I thought it was something else, and you know, it happened to not be. It happened to be Lyme disease. So, you know, I started on doxycycline, which is still one of those things. I mean, it's the treatment. Nobody's really 100% in any of the treatments. When you catch Lyme disease early, if you go on doxy for a couple weeks, it's usually pretty good at beating it. But in where I was, you know, I've been on it for a while now. So, you know, over 2 years now, basically. You know, I've had some times where I went off of it to give it a shot and see if I was, you know, in remission, but I ended up not being. But then it's a lot of supplementation, and you know, I changed my diet up a little bit, but it's one of those things that, like I said, I don't remember being bitten by a tick. I don't know when it happened. I don't know when I was bitten. It very well could have been in, you know, later 2014.
Yeah.
It could have been in 2013. I had a series of migraines and a really weird illness in 2013 that I didn't think anything of. I ended up going to the doctor. I went to an ENT. I went to a neurologist because I had couple migraines. I was really nauseous, like to the point where my friends are pissed because I didn't tell them I was so nauseous, because if I got a good whiff of my coffee in the morning, I would throw up. every time I took out the garbage, I'd be throwing garbage in the bag and bringing it down the driveway, and I would lose it. I'd blow chunks. And I, at the time I was like, what the hell, like my nieces got sick or something like that. They had like rotavirus, or they got it at daycare, and I was like, maybe it's that, but it was probably when I got bit by a tick. That was probably the early stages of Lyme. And I mean, the thing is, who knows though? So
now let me jump in real quick. There's a lot of people watching and listening, or will listen to this down the road, and they're saying, shit, I feel like that.
I have all these symptoms.
Yeah, I have this. I'm dealing with this. What is the process? If someone's listening and they're saying, damn, I hunt, I fish all the time. I've been doing it since I was a kid. Maybe this is something I have. What's the process? What should they do?
They need to talk to their doctor, and the tough part right now is that it's still like 50-50. Some doctors don't really believe that you can get Lyme chronically, that it can get into these later stages and stuff like that. So you talk to your doctor. If they test you, if they're willing to test you, that's awesome. But the tests are hit or miss.
Random.
I myself, I don't test positive for Lyme disease. The only reason that I found that I had it, I tested negative. I had one of the antibodies that they associate with Lyme disease. It's still not it's not 100% test. They test for the antibody, and if you have a high number of it, it's means that you had it and you beat it. If you have a low number of it, it means you're actively fighting that infection. And if you don't have it, it means you never had, Lyme disease or an infection associated with this antibody. Yeah. So I had a really low number of the antibody, CD57 or something like that. And we tested for that. So my doctor looked at all my symptoms, and he's like, I think you've got Lyme. And he decided that we should just try to go on doxycycline for a little bit. And he said, if you do have Lyme disease, you're going to feel very different in a few days. And it really was. He called me, like I said, 2 or 3 days before the fight. I fought, performed like garbage. Couple days, I got back on Sunday. I think Monday, went in, got my medication. By the end of the week, I felt completely different. The joint pain was still there, and a lot of the deeper set symptoms were still there, but I really did start to feel a lot better in certain ways. And like one of the things is like kind of you get a brain fog where you just sometimes you forget what you're doing. You go to do something and you completely forget. And I think everybody can kind of relate to that, or sometimes you just forget why you went into a room or something like that. But like mine was pretty bad. Right. I'd go to do something. I'd go to work in the garage or clean the basement or something like that. And like, I would just go downstairs and kind of lose myself for a little bit and just not really do much of anything. Kind of just like fart around for a little bit. And, if you can get some of these tests going, then at least your doctor is a little bit, wise to it. And there are doctors that are, more literate, we call it Lyme literate. But there's strides being made right now, and it's pretty awesome. I've done a couple events with the Global Lyme Alliance. They're one of the charities that they raise money for Lyme disease research. And I was talking to the CEO, I guess you call him that, of the GLA, and he said that we're this close to a vaccine for Lyme disease. So
wow,
that's good news.
That is good news.
It really is good news. And I mean it's messed up, like I said, because it can imitate anything, young and old. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's in pretty much every state. It's in Europe. And it's like 300,000 Americans a year.
Wow.
Are diagnosed with it. So it's an epidemic, and it feels like there's a little bit more press coming to it. And I mean, that's an awesome thing. And there's a lot of strides to be made, and we're just keep working, keep plugging along at it.
Yep. What is that medication you're on? That treatment that you're on?
It's just doxycycline. It's a pretty broad antibiotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Mike,
Yeah,
you went through this, Mike.
I did. I went through this in 2004 and 2005. A lot of the same stuff that you're talking about, Jim. I had a lot of the same symptoms that you talked about. I was having episodes after I'd work out at the gym, and I couldn't figure out. Like literally one time, I'd passed out. Somebody picked me up off the ground. They couldn't figure it out. And it finally took me finding a doctor that was, like you said, I guess Lyme literate at the time.
Yep.
And this is going back a long time. That put me on a big cycle of what you're talking about. And I did it for months, Pete. How many? Yeah. I can't remember. It was probably maybe a year, 6 or 8 months or a year. And my symptoms really vanished really quickly. The interesting thing, and as you're talking, I'm looking at Becky, because now, and again, what you said is true. I'm older. I've been through a lot of shit in fishing, just like you have. Not as bad, You're getting more beat up than I am, but literally.
Yeah, literally.
But I've been through a lot of stuff, and I've got symptoms again, and I'm wondering, has it the pounding of the boat for the last 20 years? Is it, I have a little nausea in the morning, So, maybe it's time for me to go back and get it reinvestigated. But, I mean, this is all great information.
My goodness. It's amazing to me because I'm suffering with something and I'm undiagnosed. And the symptoms that you're talking about, going up the stairs sideways. I mean, I'm just like out of the blue. I got to go up the stairs sideways in the morning for fear that my joints are going to collapse.
Yeah.
And you're like, you go down to pick up a pair of pliers on the deck of your boat, and you gotta lean on stuff to stand up again, and it's just out of the blue. So I feel that I'm worried. I think Lyme disease might be my concern. I've not found a doctor that's literate in it. I tested negative for it. Yeah. And I'm kind of stuck undiagnosed right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what's cool. That's what's crazy about Lyme disease is you can test for it and test for it and test for it.
Yeah.
And it comes back as a false negative, they call it, right? So you could essentially test for it 5 or 6 times until finally you have it.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's
Crazy. Well, awareness is great. Talking about it's great. Bringing it to light is great. I want to change topics, Jim, and I don't know if you knew this officially, but there are 2 other UFC fighters fishing.
No, there's 3.
3? Is there 3?
Yeah.
3 other UFC
I've heard
fighters
some rumors.
fishing this year. There's some smack talk going around already. Do you want to weigh in on any of this? Dave, do you want to comment? Brodzik, do you want to comment on some of the smack talk?
Yeah. Hey, Jim, it's Dave, man. Thanks for coming on, dude.
How you doing?
All right, buddy.
I don't need to talk.
Got the trophy. Got the trophy.
Hold that up one more time, Jim. Hold it up.
Hold it up. We got your full screen now. Hold that thing up. There you go. That's more than talk right there.
Clay Guida
undefeated.
says
all we
you
got to
better
talk about. There's no talking.
Wait. Dave,
I do my talking on the water.
What do we got, Dave?
So Clay says you better bring that and clean that glass for him because he's taking that home with
Clay.
Mr. Clay Guida. Can you take Clay out one-on-one? I'm in fishing. I'm talking about.
Let's give it a shot. I've been in 2 semi-official. I won the tournament,
right?
And then when I came fishing with you guys, Mike and I, we smoked the other guys.
That's true. That's true. We did. We clearly caught more perch and pickerel than any of you guys did. Clearly.
Smoked? I think that's overstating it.
So now, Jim, for people who don't follow MMA, I want to give a little background story before I ask you this question. Most recently, there was a fighter named Gregor Gillespie, who was a Division I national wrestling champion, which is no easy feat. And he defeated a guy in which afterwards, during his victory speech, he stated he's the greatest. Did you see the speech, Jim?
I did.
Yeah, he stated he's the greatest fisherman in MMA. Do you dispute that? Or?
Just keeps creeping back.
But Jim, when he won, Jim, his fans had a poster with him holding a giant pike on it, dude. What's up with that? None of your people come with deer heads and bass mounts, dude.
Yeah, they don't. Hey, man, he's a very good fisherman. I know that, and he's a good fighter as well. We'll see. We'll see come July. Like I said, I'll do my talking on the water.
Now, the Limes has hampered your training a little bit for MMA. How about fishing training? What's the plans getting ready for this derby?
Well, I've actually I've been studying. I signed up. I signed up for the Bass U, man.
Bass University subscriber right there.
I've been getting my homework in.
All right. Awesome. You need to call Sancho. He'll come down and get you warmed up.
All right.
That's awesome.
Hey, Jim, I got a question, MMA question, and most of the people watching aren't going to understand what I'm asking you, but I need to know what you think. What do you think about Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley?
I don't know, man. Woodley is. I got a lot of respect for the guy. He fought 4 times, won the title, and then defended 3 times in a year, which is pretty nuts. And he is a dangerous fighter. He hasn't fought as dangerous as he can be.
Right.
I don't know. These are 2 guys that have trained together in the past. So when they talk, I don't know I don't really worry about what they say, what happened in training and this and that, and because fight night is always different. I honestly, I think that I would pick Woodley to win. But I also think that Colby's kind of he's gotten into just about everybody's head.
Right.
Yeah.
So he seems like he's gotten Tyron a little bit fired up and emotional about it right now, and the fight's not even signed up yet. So and that's fighting emotionally is not a good thing. So.
One more giant fight that may happen that I'd like to know your opinion on is Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that would turn out?
I think that Khabib would take him down and punch a hole in his head. Khabib's problem though is that he is vulnerable. He comes in with his chin high.
Yeah.
And Conor does throw a really nice long left hand. Yeah. It's one of those fights where you've got the wrestler and grappler that needs to implement his game plan against the striker, and if either one of them stays too long in the other person's realm, it's going to be bad for him. So, the thing is, I think that Khabib has done pretty damn well against some really good strikers as of late, and his pressure is really good, and if he keeps moving forward, he's going to stuff the kicks of Conor. So then Conor's just boxing, and then I think he's going to out-wrestle him and take him down and, bloody him up.
Jim, do you have an opinion on weight cuts and where things are going with the weight cuts? And where I'm going with this is I see guys like Brian Ortega, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to get a shot at the title against Max. Ortega's giant. Right.
Yeah.
What's he, close to 200 pounds, and he's fighting 145.
145.
Yeah, 145. And he looked like a giant against Frankie Edgar. I don't know. Personally, as a fan, I have a ton of respect for fighters like you and Frankie that come in around your own weight, fight at your own weight, and I don't know. It's just I'm a little conflicted on these younger kids that have the ability to cut massive amounts of weight. but then I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, the thing is, it's part of the game. If you have weight classes, there's going to be manipulation of that, and being the bigger fighter inside the cage is always going to be an advantage.
Yeah, you're giving up a lot, just about every fight right now.
What's that?
You're giving up a lot of size just about every fight right now.
Not the terrible amount. I'm not as small for the weight class as Frankie is. When he left 55, I became the shortest 55 pounder. So I guess I'm pretty short, but I guess I'm also kind of dumpy in the hips and and a little dense.
And your head doesn't help either, dude.
Yeah, no, that's sure shit.
That's coming from a guy with the biggest head in the world, right there.
It's going to be until they adopt a different style of regulation for the weights. Another organization, 1FC, does something where they start doing hydration tests like 6 weeks out from the fight, and they kind of chart on whether where you're going to be and where you should be, and if you're going to be able to be hydrated at fight weight. So basically, what it is they moved everybody up a weight class. You had guys that were fighting at 170s that now they're not really 170 pounders, they're 185 pounders, right, because they can walk around hydrated at 185 and not 170. If they dehydrated, that's when they make 170. If the UFC wants to do something like that, I'm all for it, because then I'm going to be fighting 145 pounders, guys that are fighting 145s, potentially some of the guys that are fighting 135s. Because I'm not the biggest 55 pounder. I'm probably one of the smaller guys. Now, there was a time in my career where I would easily walk around in the mid to upper 180s.
At 5'8"?
And what's that?
At 5'8"?
At 5'8", yeah. I stayed away, and the difficult weight cuts started coming on when my symptoms started coming on as well.
You probably had about a 10-pound Lyme tick hanging off your back and didn't even know it.
Seriously. It was pretty important.
And all that time, you thought your balls just got really big. It's the big tick.
I had a tough time, so I started taking some weight off, staying away from the lifting bigger weights, and just to make my life easier and to make weight cuts easier, because it was nice being strong and explosive, or not necessarily more explosive, but stronger and bigger, on fight night. But if you're beating the crap out of yourself, the day before to make weight, it does affect you, So I've been trying to make it, easier on myself, and I still thinking I might go up, and it's like, who the hell cares? Just go and do it. And if I fought at 70s or even 85s, there's some big men that fight at 185s, but I'm going to fight at 185, walking into that cage, it being just a normal day.
Yeah.
Not having kicked my ass for the last 4 days to make weight, and taking that energy away from myself. I'm going to go in there and one, be the faster man, because I can pretty much guarantee that I'm faster than any 185 pounder. But it's just, I'd be more me, the weight cut does affect you, and it's, I don't know. I'd say get rid of them. Screw it. Let's just fight each other. Who the hell cares? We have money to fight somebody.
I'll watch.
I like that. I want to jump in real quick, and I want to say this. This is interesting. And I think this is the first time I've ever said this publicly, but I have a lot of proud moments in my life and in my career. Being a husband to Becky, the birth of my children, winning the Classic, winning the Angler of the Year. But in that list of, let's say, my top 10 most proudest moments would be having my ass kicked by Jim Miller. So thank you, Jen. Appreciate
Well,
that.
you're welcome. Anytime.
In that purple singlet too.
Yeah, and I was in a purple singlet. Yes.
Yeah.
God
Yes.
bless you, bro.
Very amazing moment in my life.
was
So
impressive.
thank you for kicking my ass.
You were a bit slimmer back then.
I was slimmer too. Yeah, that was nice.
Looking like Grimace in that purple singlet now, dude.
I couldn't get in it. Be a lot of bulges all over the place,
Like
man.
anorexic Grimace.
Go put it on. Go put it on.
Very unflattering.
What are you
Very-
drinking tonight, Jim?
Well, I started out on beer, and now I've got some weird concoction.
What's your best beer that you make, Jim?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Our Oktoberfest, we haven't made it in a little while, a few years, but our Oktoberfest is pretty good. And the recipe that came out the best is the one that we fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put all the blame on my brother, so then I guess the success lies in that as well. He burned the mash while we were mashing the grains, and just that little bit
Yeah.
of like scorched grains in the bottom. It was like a 20-gallon batch, so that little bit of it just gave it enough like of this like toasted flavor that it was like perfect.
Yeah, we had the Yards guys in here, Jim, and they said the same thing.
Said
They
the
used
same
to have
thing.
this limited release of this
Yeah.
IPA that they would make, and it was the ingredients were so expensive, and they screwed them up that they didn't want to redo it.
Yeah.
And they made it that first year, and it was delicious. Then it changed after that, and we asked them why it changed, and they explained what you just said, that
Yeah.
they messed up cooking it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was the best beer they ever made, man.
Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've made a couple other really good ones. We make a pale ale that I wanted to make something that was like complex enough, but really like light. We had a pig roast a few years ago now, so I made one that was it's just Citra hops and like Maris Otter, which is kind of a breadier English grain, and it came out. It's a really good beer, and I don't know. That's one of my favorites, and it's just drinkable. You know, I mean, that's the best part about making the beers. Like, I'm not a big fan of like making huge ones, 8-9%ers,
Right.
adding all these crazy things into it, because it's like, if it's too big and I've got a keg of it sitting in the kegerator, then you got to drink a friggin' 8 or 9% beer every night.
Yeah, it's tough.
Where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, if you make something that's like 5, I can have 2 of it, and the flavor's not going to be overpowering with anything, because
All
we
day
threw
IPA.
jalapeno peppers in it or some other crazy shit.
Pete, our very own Pete Glusick has a beer idea for you, Jim.
Oh,
Take a little bit of Coke and a little bit of Captain Morgan's, put it in a coffee cup, and call
you
it a
go.
beer.
and call it Heritage's coffee.
It's a little bit higher than 8%.
There you go.
Sailing with the captain.
Yeah.
All right,
Captain.
Jim. You're with Traeger grills. I see you cooking with a Traeger all the time.
I use one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm with them.
Well,
but,
yeah, exactly. You're using a Traeger, and we've been trying to
I
figure
love
it
it.
out.
Yeah.
Please help. Give us some recipes, dude. Give us some can't miss recipes.
Can't miss recipes.
Yeah, what's your go-to, man?
Listen, it stopped smoking profusely. We're learning every time we turn it on.
I need Jim to script our next Traeger meal.
There you go.
Give us our next
That's
Traeger
when we
meal.
should have gone live with some, like, everyone just runs through the smoke and like we announce every cast
Our
member.
guests that are coming on this show, as they run through the smoke.
It's got a smoky oak flavor to it.
Like an 80s rock video,
There you go.
All right, so what are we going with, dude? We got to cook it
Your eyes.
in about half hour, 40
All of them
minutes.
A half hour, 40 minutes. See, that's you're pushing the time limit
All
a
right,
little bit.
an hour. We'll give you
An hour. I mean, doing like cooking brats on the Traeger is probably like the best thing ever.
Go for it. Tell me about it.
I mean, all you're doing is just a couple cans of beer. I'm to the point where I buy crappy beer just to use for making bratwurst,
Okay.
just for cooking with. Crank it up to 350. throw the brats on, cook them for 20 minutes or whatever, 25 minutes. While the beer is on there warming up, you take an onion, you slice up the onion, throw the onion in the beer.
Hell yeah.
And then once those brats are cooked through, in like that 20 minutes or so, you put them in the beer. You let them sit in there for like a half an hour and just kind of soak and simmer in that beer. And then I love bratwurst.
Yeah.
Like I have an obsessive obsession with sausages and cased meats. And cooking it,
Cool.
So does
cooking
Dave.
it like that. It's just it's the best way to do it. It's the absolute best way to do it that I've found. You get some of that smoke flavor, and they're not like overdone. They're not dried out. I'm a big fan of like doing steaks on there is awesome. And if you take the time to smoke them for a little bit, so you take a nice steak and you leave it on smoke, and you smoke it for like 40 minutes to an hour.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Pull it off, crank that puppy up, and that's like the big thing is you gotta take the meat out, let the meat sit in the wrap it up or throw it in a cooler or something like that. Give that grill 15 minutes to heat up, and then throw them back on for a few minutes per side, checking that temperature. Pull them off when they're 5 degrees under, let them sit again so that they rise up. It takes work, it takes a little effort, but holy shit. Like you can make some really good friggin' steaks on there. I mean that's probably one of my favorite things to make on there. It does take that time to do it, but you can get into like a smoked friggin' ribeye or something like that, or New York strip it's awesome.
Yeah, the first time we did it, that we smoked the what was it, ribs back?
What's that? I can't hear you now.
The first time we cooked on it, we smoked some meat, and it was pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna have to be the one to figure this out if 2 hours has to go into cooking.
We're working on it.
A little bit of time.
Yeah.
Little known fact: Dave Brodzik was born with a kielbasa in his hand.
All Polish kids were.
That's
Jim.
right.
You know what this room would smell like after 3 hours of podcast and drinking beer and after eating bratwurst?
It smelled good,
Oh,
man.
that'd be awesome.
Holy
It
belch.
smelled lovely.
I'm out.
What are you talking about? Smell bad? I like that smell.
I like it.
It's a good smell. Brian.
How's your brother Dan doing, Jim?
He's doing good. He's he stepped away for a little bit for training and stuff like that, and he packed on some pounds and came back and was big and sparred with him a bunch leading up to that last fight, and it was a pain in the ass. But like Dan at 235 is not fun to move around with. But because he still moves like he was 200.
Right.
But he's got that extra power and mass to throw around. But he's back into it and training a bit more, and we're doing this thing. He's coaching a team out of our gym now for this new MMA organization, MMA Pro League, and so it's going to be a group of fighters that are fighting out of Miller Brothers MMA, and Dan's going to be the head coach, and it's going to be a pretty good opportunity.
That's
and
the new team-based league, right?
Yeah, team based, and they're doing it in an interesting way. Like the winning gets the win, the losing game first, which sucks to be that guy, but it adds that extra drama and suspense for not only for the team and those fighters that it's really hinging on, like later in the night, but also the fans watching it, they're going to be a little bit more, I guess, into it because it's there's something on the line,
Sure. That's awesome, dude. How's his neck? His neck injury's good?
It's been pretty good. Yeah, he's been able to be back in and training.
Good.
He had a bone fusion, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Jim, I got a question for you. So my oldest son just turned 17, and he's very much into his books and learning, and for the last few years he hasn't been very active. Super smart kid, blowing away all our expectations for what he's been able to accomplish, and he's heading off to college and everything like that. But I feel like I need to, as a parent, I need to kind of direct him towards something athletic again. He did, you know, he played soccer as a kid. He took Taekwondo for a little while, and he's a little bit. He's got good genetics for his
Your kid.
Yeah, yeah, I know. He must get it from my wife, but like at 12 years old, he had a six-pack. You know, when he was doing sit-ups for a week, and super flexible, can put both legs behind his head. He can sit on the couch. We'll sit on the couch with both legs behind his head watching TV. Like, super flexible. And like I said, he's a really, really smart kid, but he's inside his own head a little bit. And now he's driving, and he's out in the real world. So he does school, and then he plays video games, right? And again, he's not out of shape, but he does school and he plays video games. So everything is in a flat, two-dimensional world, right? He's staring at a monitor playing video games. Well, now he's driving, and shit's coming at you from all directions. And I could see my son, who is, in my opinion, pretty damn brilliant, struggling with, like, cars coming at me, estimating this, that, and the other. I'm like, all right, I got to break him out of the rut that he's been in the last 4 years with school and video games, and I'd like to get him into something. And what comes to my mind is jiu-jitsu, right? Because I don't know shit about it, but from what I listen to, it's very cerebral. It's not something you take a lot of damage, and his natural flexibility seems to kind of line up with that. The fact that he's so hip flexible. So I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on that, and if that would be, as a father, a good direction to kind of push him into.
I mean, if you wanted to see if he wants to give it a shot, I mean, it is a cerebral sport, and jiu-jitsu is for everyone. It really is. It's extremely low impact if you're doing it right, and if you have good instruction. Obviously, I mean, that's the biggest thing with jiu-jitsu is finding instructors that aren't going to demand too much out of students. It's pretty easy now to find reputable people, but it is a very cerebral sport. And I mean, that's the thing, though, is it's also not cerebral if you don't need it to be. Like, I'm not a cerebral grappler.
Right.
I don't think while I'm going, while I'm grappling or while I'm fighting. I'm reactive.
Right.
And if I'm thinking and I'm trying to plan things out and I'm trying to be a step ahead of my opponent, then I'm hesitating, and then I'm too slow, and then I'm dealing with things. Where if I just kind of like blank out and let my body do what it's supposed to do, then things happen, and next thing I know, I'm getting my hand raised. But it is a sport where you can use your mind. You can be that athlete that is ahead of your opponent and like planning an attack, and it is like chess. So yeah, I mean, if you wanted to see if he wants to give it a shot, I mean, guide him somebody's way, man, because there's you guys are in South Jersey. There's a lot of really reputable places down there.
Who you got down here? You got anybody, or you can text me later.
All right, yeah, I'll text you.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, if you want to say it on the air, that's cool. If not, you can text me later.
No, I mean, Ricardo Almeida, I don't know how close he is. Tom DeBlas, those guys, and anybody that's like off of Ricardo, you're gonna be in really good hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alameda's more central Jersey, like Hamilton. His school's out of Hamilton. He's all the way down here in Glassboro near Mike's house, where you came that one time, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking to travel like 1 mile each way.
One full mile. And
You,
that's it.
yeah.
Who you got,
So
Jim?
you
Who
do a
got?
Google search and you send me some names.
All right, we'll start with
We'll
that.
cross reference.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
It'll be a big cross reference.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Jim, first of all, thank you for coming on again. Very, very insightful stuff on limes. I know a lot of our listeners are going to love that stuff.
Yeah.
And, dude, I can't wait to see you in a month or so at re-winning the title again against all these other people that are talking smack. There it goes
There it
again.
is.
Look at it creep in.
Where you at, Gregor Gillespie?
That's right.
I
Where you
was
at?
thinking of a belt buckle.
Beck, that's not a
bullshit.
bad idea, Beck. Let's think
work
about
on
a belt buckle next time.
Cool.
Definitely look forward to seeing you, and can't wait till you come out. And thank you again for fishing the event. It's going to be a great time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
You're the
Jim
man,
Miller,
Jim.
everybody.
Thanks, Jim.
Woo! Man, that's some awesome stuff. Dude, it actually felt like talking to Jim's like being on an NPR podcast. Seriously, right?
He's got a tremendous amount of knowledge about
He
the
does.
things that he's into.
Well, that's why his podcast works.
Yeah.
You know, he's a diverse dude. Like I said, you know,
Right.
it's interesting because I don't think people, people in all walks of life. You have people that diversify like that, and people that just stay static in one thing. And he's very diverse. You could tell.
You could hear it.
Yeah.
He dives in. I
Yeah.
mean, even with Lyme's disease, he's dived. I learned a lot, and
Yeah.
he's actually inspired me to reinvestigate.
Absolutely.
You know,
He's still
and-
You should.
You have to go
Yeah.
check out that antibody. You know
Yeah.
the thing that I find interesting? Every doctor I've come across doesn't really want to test you for Lyme.
A lot of them don't.
They all shut you down. Every single doctor I've been to, you don't have Lyme's. They look at you, and they say that's not it.
That's what my doctor just told me because I've been having all these vertigo issues.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, you don't have Lyme's. I'm like, well, could you just test? You're already taking the blood. Is
Yeah.
it probably just some vial, spin it, whatever?
Yeah.
No, you don't have it. You're fine.
The interesting thing when they tested Becky's blood for everything that's going on.
Oh, God.
Do you remember the horror movie The Thing?
I remember that.
You remember it? And they're like in the frozen tundra or whatever, and they take the blood samples, and the way that they discover whether you're the thing is they heat up the tips of metal, and they put it in the cup with the blood, and if the blood jumps away, you're the thing, and that's how they tested your blood. But your blood didn't jump away; it stayed in, so you're not the thing.
It's good.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Not being the thing.
Nobody's backing me up on that shit. Come on, man.
That was so weird.
No, it's not. That's how they tested it.
So I'm not the thing.
Go ahead.
So there's some IM coming in on Brian's question to Jim Miller. Let's see here. Comment from Pete's Ultrex. Super awkward won their stock.
Wait. What question's this?
While I guess that long one you went into about Luke and jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Pete's Ultrex.
That was awkward.
I don't know. While
Pete's Ultrex.
Wawa hoagie later. Jim, my daughter has been dancing for years. How do I make sure she doesn't dance on bars when she's 21?
That's your problem, Valdez.
Wawa hoagie lady.
It's too late. It's
keep 'em
gonna
coming,
Pete's
guys.
favorite Wawa.
happen. Wow.
I hate these
Pete,
guys.
some people want to know in 2018 where the
I'm so glad that people send messages.
I hate them. That's why I never talk.
Pete, when will some of the new locations for Bass U come out, and will there be any near South Jersey?
We're hope so. We're hopeful. We're looking at Jersey right now. So that and we're going to be in Tulsa. We're going to be back in Alabama. It looks like.
Bama.
And
Do you think if you come to
Roll
New
Tide.
Jersey, you can invite Jim Miller and Brian Stockwell to stand up on stage and Brian can ask him questions?
That would be
for an
awesome.
hour?
That's entertaining.
Oh man. Brian's like I hate-
Somebody else
Very
said.
entertaining.
Somebody else
Poor guy.
said. Someone else said, Brian, make him sweat or take him rock climbing.
Rock climbing. Oh, I know a good place. Suicide Hill in Runnymede.
The milfoil hunter says, "We love you, Brian. Love your ghost more, though."
Well, here's what I want to know,
Poor
Dave.
Brian.
Dave, here's what I want to know. So Brian asked Jim what he would do. What would Brian's ghost say to do? Do you have any idea what Brian's ghost would say to do?
It's involving his son. Brian's ghost is not around right now. You know, families are off limits. Rephrase the question, and I'm sure his ghost may come through.
I just appreciate the fanboying that went on in the back room there.
The fanboying.
Oh, come on, Brian and I.
There was a lot
yeah.
of fanboy going on.
Oh, come on. Definitely
I mean,
did.
this
happened.
If Mike, if you didn't get involved, we'd still be talking MMA till probably 1 o'clock.
I know.
Unlike
And
Greg
I
Hackney,
normally
Jim Miller
wouldn't mind
answers
if
my calls.
I'm looking at my watch and I got to get up at 5 to be
Some of us gotta
to
be
be
at
at
work
the flats
tomorrow.
by 6.
All right, so are we doing birthday celebration now? Are we done?
I think it's here's let's do
Charlie
this.
Murphy.
Let's do this, Brian. Brian the Carpenter. You good with you?
Michael the fisherman.
You good with
Do we still have things to do?
no? You good with calling it quits here?
Yeah, man.
All right, let's do this. We'll go out with the birthday celebration.
Oh, hold on, I gotta light the candles.
Okay, let me. What camera? See, I'm awkward here. Am I looking at this one? Let me thank everybody for watching tonight. Amazing Ike Live show.
You pull up a birthday song?
Want to thank our guest tonight,
got a
Charles.
song.
Thank you for being in
Thanks
studio.
for having me. Yeah, man.
Awesome. Very excited about everything that's
Thank
going to
you.
happen.
Thank you.
Thank you to Pete Glusick, Dave Brodzik, Brian the Carpenter. Thank you, Becky,
Jim
for
Miller,
being here with us tonight.
Nicholas Waddell.
Thank you for Nicholas Waddell.
Yes.
Not Weedle.
No, we don't.
Thank you for
Waddell.
joining us, Nick. And, of course, Jim A10 Miller. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thanks, everybody, for watching. Check out our sponsors, MTB, Bash University, TH Liquid Mayhem, Flambeau, Line Cutters, Real Snot. Check them all out. Use the promo codes we mentioned earlier in the show. Get your discount, and we'll see you soon. Brian, announcement on a new date for Ike Live. Do you know yet?
Yeah, right.
There you have it.
Good story.
Hey, get your free Bash You hat. Subscribe, and Mike, happy birthday.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
birthday, Happy birthday.
And last but not least, apologies to Mr. Dick Morris and Dick Hackney. We're supposed to have you on, but we ran out of time. And with that, happy birthday to me and Eric the intern who bailed on us tonight. And here we go.
Are you ready?
You ready?
I have to hear everyone.
We have to
Ready?
sing?
Do we have any music?
Nah.
All right.
Happy
No, you don't
Oh.
sing for
Can't
yourself.
sing that. That's not working.
I was doing it.
All right, let's do it fast. Ready, set, go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mike. Happy birthday to you. Woohoo! There you go. Excellent.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace out.